Okay, now we are going to discuss Ralph Linton. Keep writing notes with me. So who is Ralph Linton? We know that he is the anthropologist who explained status, role, and model personality. Okay? He has explained correctly that how culture shapes personality. Okay, so how do we know about Ralph Linton? The anthropologist, the anthropologist who explained status, role, and model personality. Have you ever wondered why people behave differently in different societies? Yeah. So why one person becomes highly individualistic while another value collective life? For example, you can compare and contrast Bhutan people versus Americans, right? Anthropology is teaching us that how we all have evolved from single cell, but we shows high level of diversity. We must appreciate cultural relativism, yet we are centered around ethnocentrism. Now, all these anthropological theories helping us to understand people around us. Why society expects certain behavior from a teacher, parent, or leader. You know, the moment I'm here, you want me to behave like a teacher. You must have heard a lot of time, behave like a UPSC aspirant, behave like a student. Why are we being judged by our status and how these status are defining our roles? I often questions like this many times. You know, people I would suggest having less wisdom or do not have exposure of academia. They, most of the time talk to me like this. Sometimes my brothers, my father often says, behave like a girl, behave like you are a PhD holder, behave like you are a genuine. You know, your credentials, your degrees are not suiting what you are doing. Behave like your age, right? So they do not know my age, they don't know anything, but they want me to expect in a certain manner. So how do you have to relate to these theories? The answer to many of these questions was explored by Ralph Linton. Okay, so this is how you people should write quickly. Ralph Linton is explaining us why society expects from us, how these status and role is defining us. So he has given us major concepts like status, role, then model personality. Now you would see that Ralph Linton has combined anthropology, sociology, psychology for his explanation on anthropological theories. So today we need to understand Ralph Linton, his major theories, and why his ideas still matter in the modern world. Whenever we are reading these thinkers, whenever we are exploring their ideas, we need to understand how it is relevant for us in today's time. So, who was Ralph Linton? The next heading should be, who was Ralph Linton? He was an American anthropologist. If not wrong, born in 1893. He became one of the most influential scholars in the 20th century. Now, when he was working, anthropology was broadly reflecting on tribal communities. Okay? But he began to ask deeper questions. Okay? When he was writing, so the paradigm it was on tribal communities, what they are doing, and all indigenous exploration was there. He was the one who spoke very important question. How does culture shape personality? How does culture shapes personality? How does society organize people? Do people have to write on these questions? How does society organize people? How do individuals fit into social systems? How do individuals fit into social systems? So Linton conducted fieldwork in places like Madagascar and the Pacific Islands. Okay, so these are his important fieldwork areas. But his lasting contribution in anthropology has to be theoretical contributions. Okay, so you do have to know that yes, Ralph Linton is a very prominent thinker who helped us to understand personality is shaped by culture only. He explained that, in his work, for example, the study of a man, it was his work, please write down, the study of men, the cultural background of personality. This is his major work, the study of men, the culture, personality, the cultural background of personality. Okay, so it's a very famous work. So for Lincoln, he is explaining that culture is not biological. This is what major social anthropologists are arguing, right? This point. So culture was not something biological. No child is born with culture. He's explaining that how culture is learned behavior passed from one generation to another. This includes language, customs, beliefs, values. So, Linton explained that human beings become social beings. Okay? So, human beings become becomes social being. Okay? through a process called enculturation and socialization. So there is a social process. This means a child learns how to speak, behave, dress, respect elders, celebrate festivals through society. So for Ralph Linton, the role of a society is massive. So it is society that shapes individuals' personality. So Linton believed, write down, human personality is not created in isolation. Human personality is not created in isolation. It develops within culture. And this was a powerful idea because it connected anthropology, sociology, and psychology. So human personality is not created in isolation. It develops within culture. Now, one of the greatest contribution of Ralph Linton is the concept which he has given known as status and role. So what is status? So what is status? Write down, status means a position in society. स्टेटस का मतलब है कि आपका क्या पोजीशन है सोसाइटी में. Position in society. Example, you can be students, teachers, mother, father, sisters. Okay? So each person occupies many statuses in life. Multiple statuses you have. Every individual has multiple statuses. A daughter at home, teacher at school, okay, friend. Now, what is role? What is role? Role is the behavior expected from a status. Role is the expected behavior. So you need to act like a teacher, you need to act like a daughter. Okay, if someone has a status of a teacher, society expects them to teach, to behave in a certain manner. Certain actions or behavior is not allowed. We need to maintain discipline. I have to evaluate performance. I have to teach. Okay, I have to guide learners. So these are my roles as a teacher. Okay, if someone has a status of a doctor, if someone has a status of IAS officers, so role is going to tell us how do we have to behave. Okay. Now, very famously he said, write down, Linton famously said Role is the dynamic aspect of status. Role is the dynamic aspect of status. So you can say that status is the position and role is the action. So Linton, just like many sociologists have explained, that there are two types of status. One is ascribed, which is given to us by birth. By achievements. Okay, achievement by achievements. Okay, so you are born with certain statuses like daughter, mother, girl, this and that, and certain statuses you earn through effort and ability, like judge, civil servant, etc. Now, this distinction became extremely influential in sociology and anthropology. Okay, so this is a very important work which is helping us to understand that how society is expecting from us. Now, another contribution which is given to us by Rev Linton is model personality. Now, you need to know that how do we know there are not many members of a society, they show similar attitudes or traits. Okay, so you need to understand why do many members of a society show similar attitudes or traits? Because the answer is very simple. So Linton argued that because people in one society often share so many similarities, similar child rearing practices, similar discipline, customs, institutions, beliefs, values, norms. So they may develop a common personality tendency. Okay, so Rev Linton is arguing what is model personality? How do we have got this? So he argues many people share many people share common traits. Why? Because of similar social cultural patterns. Okay, so let's just say common socialization practices, common values, norms, beliefs. Now, because of this common or similarities, individuals are going through similar, you know, developments of personalities. And because of this, they develop common personality tendency. Right, on the most common personality pattern The most common personality pattern is called model personality. Now here is a catch. It does not mean every person is the same. It simply means certain traits become more common. Just write down this difference. It does not mean that every person would be same. It simply means certain traits become more common. So for instance, in a highly competitive capitalist society, common traits would be ambition, independence, achievement orientation. Because we want to achieve this. In a collectivist society or in a traditional society, common traits may include cooperation, respect for elders, group loyalty, etc. So, simple, I would say, Linton is explaining culture, okay, is very much dependent on socialization. And then we have personality. Okay, so this was a major step. Now, do ask this question why Linton is important. So first, healing the individual and society. He helps us to understand linkages between healing individual and society. Okay, he showed that people shape society. He showed that yes, people shaped society. It is true, but it's vice versa also. It is society also shapes people. He gave practical concepts like role and status, which we are still using it. You can say he humanized anthropology, one of the major contribution. He humanized anthropology. So he moved beyond studying customs and began asking, he moved beyond studying customs and began asking cultures enters how culture enters the mind. This made anthropology more interdisciplinary. Now, famous criticism for him, it is too generalized, ignored diversity, too generalized, ignored diversities. Modern societies are complex. Okay, whatsoever criticism would be, Ralph Linton helped us understand. So Ralph Linton helped us understand that society is not just made of institutions. It is made of people occupying positions and performing roles. Write on this. Rev Linton helped us understand that society is not just made of institutions. It is made of people occupying positions and performing roles. Okay, so he explained that culture shapes our thinking, our behavior, even our personality. That is why his ideas are still very alive in anthropology and sociology, even today. Okay, so this is what we need to understand, that Ralph Linton argues that to understand society or culture, we need to focus on individuals. Okay, so we need to know that how individuals are interacting with culture. So he found that it is culture which is shaping individuals' thought process. What here we have to learn, that Ralph Linton is arguing that culture shapes society. Okay, so you need to say that, okay, it is individuals who are shaping society, but society is also shaping our thought process. So it is basically a debate between individual and society, and we have got essay on the similar theme in UPSC. So society also gives us framework on which we follow when we are born. So no humans are born with culture. So of in the process of living this life, through the process of enculturation and socialization, we learn and imbibe different status and roles. Similar argument is given to us by George Herbert Mead. George Herbert Mead is also arguing that society is composed of various social interactions. He has given us the theory in which he explained that how there is the play stage, how there is a game stage, how there is a intimating stage where we are where children are only popping, right? You must have seen that small children, toddlers are playing games where they are behaving like a doctor, engineer, mother, father. They play such games. So they are just acting it, they do not know what they are doing. But when they enters into the teenage, they start understanding and start behaving as per their understanding with different roles. So when he is in school, he would act differently. When he is in home, he would act differently. So he's just becoming ready. So we behave as per the generalized others. What is generalized others? According to George Herbert Mead, it is the expectation of society from our status. So our role is to behave as per our status. Is this clear? I believe, yeah, this is very much clear. I hope आप लोगों को understanding clear हो गई है इसमें. So this is Ralph Linton, very easy for us to understand. Okay.